Welcome to Discovering 615. In this episode, Thack Attack 615 sits down with Chris Dyer, owner of Towne Square Records and Comics in Gallatin, Tennessee. From diving into his teenage love for comic books and vinyl, to organizing Gallatin Comic Con with guests like the Fonz, this conversation is packed with nostalgia, rare finds, and community spirit. Whether you're a collector or a fan, you won't want to miss it.
So you had a good week.
We did. It's always a good week here, just about always. Anyway, we usually have lots of stuff going on. There's so many things. I mean, free comic book day, record store day. We have festivals on the square. There's something. I mean, we have something pretty large going on every month.
That's good. That's good.
It's a lot of keeps you people coming in.
Great. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Discovering 615. I am your host, Thack Attack 615, and I'm joined today by Chris Dyer of Towne Square Records and Comics. So, Chris, great to have you.
Thank you. Let me enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, tell me, how did you get started in this industry? How did you get up to Gallatin? Give me a little bit about your past and things of that nature.
Well, I'm 60-year-old, and I done my first comic book show when I was 11-year-old, and that's a long time ago. I mean, I remember finding my dad's comics as just a kid, and it was just, and that's what I wanted to do from then on. It was, and I grew up during the time that all these great music was out there. You know, we got to go see all these people. I've seen everybody. I mean, I've seen Elvis twice. I've seen Janis Joplin. I've seen the Eagles Hotel California tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my dad took me to see Kiss when I was like 11 or 12 years old. I mean, just to experience it. And there's not many people I haven't seen. I've never seen any of the Beatles. But it just, so that the thing about the records and the comics, it kind of hits a lot more people. If you just sell one thing, you know, you're targeted on one thing. But today's business, you have to target a wider branch of people. So if we just did comics, we'd lose the record people. If we just did record, we'd lose the comic people.
Right.
But by doing them together, the stores literally split right down the middle. One side's comics, other side's records, and records, and other side's comics and toys. So I mean, we try to have something for everybody. You know, it's not just the comic geek or the a record collector or something. I mean, it's funny. People will come in here and they don't really even know why, but they'll look at something and they'll remember when they was a kid. I mean, I remember, I was 16 years old when Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell came out, and I was just in love. It's such a great album, you know, and I can hear them songs, and I can remember back to listening to them, you know, in my first car. It was just, it's like a time machine.
Right.
It'll always be that way, I think.
Now, tell me a little bit, because we had talked about it before, like when you got into the comics, was there something certain that got you started about your dad's collection that was unique?
That when I've still got it. When I crawled up my grandmother's attic, I was always a digger, I guess, a picker or whatever you want to call it. But got up my grandmother's attic. I was 6 years old. I found my dad's comics. I take them downstairs. I'll never forget this. We sat down and we're laying them out on a coffee table, and he's telling me when he got that one, where he got that one at. So I mean, we're talking. This was, Lord, let's see, it was probably 25 years. Yeah. I was. He was probably 25 years old since he'd even seen them, but he remembered everything about every one of them. And there was one in particular, and I've still got it. It's a Donald Duck book. It's called Christmas for Shacktown, and Santa Claus brought that to him in 1953. Wow! He said that was what was in his stocking. So I've got it in my collection. The money can't buy that book,
right?
You know? But my dad was a big influence on what I've done in life towards that. He teaches. He's retired now, but he taught blind and deaf children. That was his thing. But to me, you know, you got to do something. I mean, even if I was filthy rich and I couldn't sit at home.
Sure.
I mean, I just can't do it. But the mixture of the two is really a perfect fit for people nowadays, because records have come back in a big way. I mean, we sell a lot of records, and we sell a lot of comics. We're going to a comic show, not this Sunday, but next Sunday in Atlanta. Okay. We travel. We do Indianapolis, Atlanta, Dayton, Ohio, Myrtle Beach. We You know, we do a lot of shows and enjoy them. We go there to buy just as much as we do to sell. Because you bring new stuff into the store. We don't sell anything on eBay. I want people to come in the store and be able to find it.
Gotcha.
Because I don't know about you, but you know, you can look at it on eBay all you want to, but if you can hold something in your hand,
yeah,
you know, there's no way that's going to get messed up in the mail. It's not going to get lost. It's not going to get left outside and rained on or anything. It's just it's more personable,
right?
And that's the key. Today, I see so many kids come in here. They literally, and I'm not picking on them, but they literally don't know how to talk to people. They text. They just don't communicate. Right. The art of good conversation is just about lost in this day and time.
Right.
We was over at my mother-in-law's one time, and she got a long couch, and there was 4 teenagers sitting on it. They're all sitting over texting. I said, "Is any one of y'all texting each other?" And 2 of them laughed. They were texting. I said, "You're sitting right beside of each other," but they didn't want people to hear what they were saying, so they kept on privacy. So I understand that, but you know, to be able to sit down and talk to somebody and communicate with somebody and show them something. I mean, I love it when people bring stuff in. That is when they come out of the car, when they get out of the car, truck, or van, whatever they're in, and they're toting a box, my ears perk up. I'm ready, because you just never know what you're going to bring in. There's been such cool stuff brought in this store.
Right.
It's crazy. Like I think I told you before, I had started Outer Limits Comics and done that for 10 years. 9/11 happened, and people realized they didn't have to have comics.
Okay.
And or Pokemon cards or Magic cards or all that. But I knew they had to have something to drive. So I sold out, sold 4 stores and opened a car lot. Was the best financial decision I could make, but it wasn't where my heart was at.
Right. Okay.
But I've done the best I could do with what I've done, and it worked out fine. I actually enjoy it. I try to enjoy stuff, you know, and not look at the downside of things.
Right.
I'm the guy with the glass 2/3 full when it's half empty. You know, I'm just that way. I'm just that way. I mean, to try to turn a positive out of a negative. It's sometimes hard, but sometimes it's worth doing. Sometimes it's worth doing. And I have found out, you know, and there's a lot of, I've seen so many people in this business. One year I bought 6 stores out, but I've seen so many people in this business that they're not dedicated enough or driven enough. And I'll tell you, if you ask me a question about something and I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, and I'll Google it and I'll find it, or I'll find the answer out. So many people will BS you. If you come to me and you're talking comics and think you know a whole lot, maybe you do. I'll find out in just a few minutes, you know, because I know. And same way with horses too. I've been through the quarter horses all my life, but this is it's kind of a store that that's there's not a lot of them out there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you think about it, there's not. I mean, and it's getting fewer and fewer every day.
Right.
It really is. So you have to be smart. You know, when you have to spend your money wisely, but dedication, taking things serious. When you open at a certain time, you be there. You open. Family emergencies come up. That happens. But, you know, you always have a backup plan.
Gotcha. Yeah, exactly. So what, in your history of pursuing comics, records, I think we've had this discussion, what's the most interesting of the comics and the records that in terms of your finds?
It's
what you know,
it's crazy. It's amazing what walks in this door. I mean, I stuff comes in here that I never dream of. I mean, here a while back there was a guy come in and he was older than me, and he had a shoebox, and it had 2 comics in it, one from 1904 and one from 1905. The 1904 was the first appearance of Buster Brown and Buster Brown's shoes. Remember how they used to give Buster Brown? They had comic books of Buster Brown.
Yeah.
And you bought a pair of shoes and you got a comic book. Well, this was the very first one, the very first Buster Brown comic, and it was so rare that they didn't know it even existed in this form. It said when we looked it up, it said it had somebody else on the back cover. Well, this one didn't. And then we found an article that was written in the mid-'80s, and it says, well, there's rumors that there's one out there with this person on the back cover. Sure enough, it was.
Oh, wow.
But they were, one thing that amazed me about it was they were not made on cheap paper. They were made on really, really good, high-quality paper. For a time period for somebody at the 1904 to 1905 that they're going to give these things away, you would think they would cut corners and not do that well. Right.
But,
so I sold them to a buddy of mine. just about everything's got a price. But you can't sold them to a buddy of mine. And he sent them off and had them graded, which that's what that means. These are great books. And it says on there, 1 of 1. They did not know that the book even existed.
Oh, wow.
So it says on there, 1 of 1. So it's the only one in the world not to exist.
Oh, wow.
And it come through here. And it's like they had an auction down here in Bethpage. And I bought a lot of record collections. And this one necessarily wasn't that. It was a lot of records. It was 91 boxes. They held up one box and you bid on it.
Yeah.
Take as many as you want. I thought I'll take them all. I was thinking 50. It was 91. So that Sunday morning, I had couldn't bring them in before we opened and set them in the back of the store so I could go through them. But there was a crate of 78s. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. 78s.
The old 10-inch that come out.
Yeah.
And
you had to play them on what, 78
speed?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. On a Victrola where you wind up. I've still got one. I've got an Emerald. But anyway, so this story. Well, I'll tell you. You decide. This was pretty cool. So, just 2 weeks later, after I bought that collection, we had a table back here in the back, and I would work on it. I had a young girl working up at front, and I'm back there, and I've called my wife, and I'm going through the box of records, a crate of 78s. I tripped over them that morning coming in the back door. And I thought, well, I better look through them. Well, about the third one down was a Hank Williams, so I knew it was pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm telling her, I'm talking to her, and I pick it up, and it's a white labeled Herald record of Lightning Hopkins.
Okay.
Lightning Hopkins, an old blues guy. His first 2 records in 1954, he had 2 albums come out in 1954, were both on Herald. Was the only time he ever printed.
Okay.
But this was a white label promo, which that means it was sent out to disc jockeys to play. But you got to understand, there were no blues stations back in, or pretty much even black radio stations back then. There just wasn't. And they did this was a white label, so it was never made to sell in the stores. It was made for disc jockeys to play. Well, when they got ready to make the album, and I've got the album, I've got a repress. I don't have an original. Original's about $2,000, but the repress, and it did not have that one of those songs on it. So what had happened was, and it was called Lightning Boogie. What happened was the record company didn't like it, so they left it off for some reason. Well, this one I had, when I looked at it, I looked up online, Discogs. I called a buddy of mine in Nashville that's real big into 78s. He said, man, it's over my head. I called a guy in Johnson City. He sends him pictures of it and everything. And this is, it's like a fairy tale story, really. But so the guy says, what time do you open? I said, 11 o'clock. He said, can I meet you there at 10? He's okay. So he met me here. We discussed, and he calls a guy called the Godfather. He was actually in New York, no joke, real thick Italian accent, had been there since the 40s.
Okay.
The oldest record store known to exist. He's passed away since then. But they call him, he calls him, puts him on speakerphone. The guy had already sent him pictures of the record. Well, he tells me, and he's real like a real thick Italian accent, and he's old too. He was in his 90s. But he said, that record doesn't exist, son. He said, I'm just going to tell you. He said, it's not in the catalog. Of course, they didn't have the internet back then. He said, this record does not show up that it exists. And I thought, well, what does that mean? I said, what does that mean? He said, ordinarily they would make somewhere between 30 to 50 of the promos, but they wouldn't make them that much of them because the only place that those were played were in juke joints. And that had to be the only, it was played in jukeboxes and juke joints. So they, let's say, like you said, 30 to 50 was the most ever made. This record was not made. He said, I don't know how you got it. It was not made in the Herald book. No numbers matched. So anyway, the guy buys it off of me. It leaves here. And as he's starting to go out the door, he pulls out a wad of $10,000. He said, I was going home with that record. So I could have got a lot more than I got out of it. But anyway, I still made money. It was cool. So he takes it and donates it to the Blues Hall, or puts it on display at the Blues Hall of Fame for 2 months. And it says 1 of 1. It's got a big write-up about it. And they say a store in Gallatin. I wish they'd said us. But, it is what it is.
Exactly.
It was just cool. So then the University of Mississippi has the world's largest blues collection.
Okay.
On cylinders and 78s. Well, he donated to them. So that's where it's at now, on display at the University of Mississippi. And they do a thing every year, twice a year, called Record Store Day, where they make particular records. They're talking about making this a record store day thing.
Oh wow!
I hope they do.
That'd be
I'd like
so
to have
cool.
a copy of it. But it had never been played. When I got it, you could tell it had never been played because you can take those 78s and take a magnifying glass and look in the grooves, and you'll see trash in them if they've never been played. If they've been played, it's slick.
Right.
It was cool. It was just a great piece, and like I say, found it in a barn up in Bethpage, Tennessee. You just never know.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, we all have records, or we had them, let's say, unless we threw them away or give them away or put them in a yard sale or whatever. So everybody's got a stack of records. A lot of Prairie Como and Lawrence Welk stuff that nobody wants. But every now and then there's some good stuff comes in. That's true. You have to dig through it and keep on going.
But of course, with records and vinyls making a comeback, I mean, it's the sound of the record. I mean, I grew up listening to records.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so it's the sound.
It's got that feeling about it. It really does. It's got that. It's got that old nostalgia feeling. Like I say, it takes you back. It really is like a time machine to me. Because, like I say, some of those songs I can hear them, and I can remember the first time I heard them, or I remember a buddy of mine had a Jeep, and he loved Journey, and he had this big loud speaker, and he would ride around. I remember it playing "Stoned in Love," and sad to say, my friend he's passed on, but had diabetes real bad. But every time I hear that song, I think of him.
Right.
It's just things like that you do, and like I've told everybody, and we've done a lot of talking. I've done a lot of speaking at churches and fundraisers stuff. Well, not fundraisers, but things, and people. Everybody has to have they had records at one time or another, right? And when they get to 30, and I call it a 30-year gap. When you get to 30 years old, you're married, supposedly you're married, you've got a kid or two, you want to buy back your childhood, what you couldn't find when you was a kid, what you wanted but you couldn't find when you was a kid, or something you had and you liked it, and your mama made you get rid of it or sell it in the yard sale, or you don't know what happened to it, but you want it back.
Right.
And it's the same way for men and women both. I mean, it's not just a man thing. I mean, and I think, and I've said this for years, I think someday all this Hannah Montana stuff that was made will be in demand, because I think the women that bought that. I mean, I remember Hannah Montana birthday stuff. My daughter had a Hannah Montana birthday. I mean, it was huge, but see, people threw all that stuff away. Again, well, it's like it'll come back,
like the Star Wars stuff or G.I. Joe.
Exactly.
I mean, that stuff is
very same thing.
I mean, no telling how much. I mean, my brother and I collected Star Wars and G.I. Joe. Yeah. So it's like, and
George Lucas was a genius. And when he made his figures, his 3.5-inch figures, he put a date on each one of them's leg, so you knew which movie it come from.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so smart from the beginning.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
And the first set that he made of figures, there was only 12 figures. They called it 12-back. And you can see on the back of them like a Vader on the card, because nobody kept them on a card. They didn't make it to the car. I remember them asking if you wanted a bag. And Lord, you need a bag, because you was going to rip that sucker open and throw the card away and play with the figure. That's why they're worth about 100 times more being carded than they are being loose, because nobody saved them. They bought them to play with. That's what they're made for. They bought them to play with. And then collectors got involved. And nowadays, a lot of people look at the new stuff and they think, oh, that's going to be like that someday. No, it'll never be like that, because everybody's collecting them now. And they're not opening them.
Right.
Where back then, they were. So it's a big difference. And they make 100 times more of something than they did back then. Because, Lucas was just getting started.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He changed the world.
Yeah.
And he was smart enough, like I say, he was smart enough to put dates on them so you knew which series it come out of. And I mean, he done that early on. Nobody else has ever done that.
Right.
He was a very intelligent man.
Yes. Of course, now the big thing collecting, one of the big things I think is, like you've got here, is the Pokemon.
Yes. Pokemon has been going now for about 27 years. And I remember when it came out, it was, we just thought, well, it'll last a little while. But every year, it seemed like every year we'd think, well, if we can make it through Christmas, we can make it through Christmas. Because, Christmas, I remember one year when I had my Franklin store, we had a list of 38 people that their kids had asked Santa Claus for a Charizard. Yes, Christmas Eve night, I'm making phone calls. I'm opening boxes and opening packs because I want them. Santa Claus is real. We got to get some dang
Charizards.
Yeah. So we did. We got them 38 Charizards. They were coming, and I mean, I was buying them off. I'd sell them back in, like they'd bring like $20.
Yeah.
So I'd buy them off kids for 15 and sell them for 20. Or even, I didn't care if it wasn't making money at all. I wanted Santa Claus to be there.
Yeah.
But it was, things like that you remember. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
People, and there's not a lot of difference than buying a pack of cards and opening it than there is taking a scratch off and scratching off. You're just hoping you get something good.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Yeah.
It was a guy here today bought a pack of Pokemon cards, pulled a $500 card out of it.
Wow.
Yeah. Sent it off and had it graded. I don't know if he's got it back yet or not, but
Jeez.
yeah, it was $500 ungraded. So no telling what it'll be if it comes back with a high grade.
Oh my word.
Yeah, there's still opportunities out there.
Yeah.
To make money.
Sounds like baseball cards as well. I mean, depending on
baseball
what you
cards, same way. You buy a pack, you don't know who you're going to get. You really don't. Sports cards have made a big comeback too.
Mm-hmm.
Big comeback. They brought in the McGuire and Sosa and Bonds and all them. Just about ruined the hobby for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was warehouses full of 88, 89, 90, 91 Tops, Don Russ, Fleer, and all that stuff. Still to this day, you can buy them for $5 a box because they're not worth.
Really?
Yes, they're not worth anything.
Wow.
It's just the way it is because they made so many of them and they didn't sell because they flooded the market. And then this whole steroid thing come up and it just turned everybody off. So, but now we've got, Caitlin Clark, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I had never watched WNBA in my life.
Right.
But she's come out and she's fantastic. And her cards are going. They sold one the other day. Her card that brought like $300,000.
Good night.
She's a phenomenon too. I mean,
she is.
She's similar to Taylor Swift as far as being a phenomenon in what she does. But she's brought WNBA a long way because I'd never watched a game in my life.
Yeah. Well, it's like Pistol Pete Maravich. I think it's her style of play too.
I think so
smart
too.
And
she's smart. She's cunning. She's like a cat. She don't get into all the hype and stuff.
Right.
Pretty level-headed young lady for her age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if she's getting advice. I'm sure she's getting advice from parents or somebody, but
yeah, absolutely.
She's a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And making probably a lot of little girls that never wanted to play basketball.
Yeah, exactly.
Too. I mean, it's that's just the way it is. I mean, if you think about it, Tiger Woods got a lot of people wanting to play basketball, want to play golf.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Somebody come out there with a phenomenal, it drives people towards the game.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So let me come back to something you mentioned earlier. You mentioned the grading system for comic books. How does that work?
Well, a 10 is perfect.
Okay.
They're really hard to get because they can always find something wrong with anything. Up there's a 9.8. That's as close as you're going to get. There are a few 10s out
Green
there.
Lantern versus Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
My gosh.
Yeah. But this one, this one's a 5.5. And it'll even tell you the color of the pages. Tells you when it was made and it's encased. And it's
wow.
Yeah, it's encased so you can see. But in my opinion, comic books are made to be read.
Right.
But I like buying these because that way it's not been color touched up or it's not been trimmed, or if it's something else is wonky about it.
Right.
But they go up to a 10. This is a $550 comic. If it was a 9, it'd be a $2,000 comic. It makes a huge difference.
Wow.
In which that's actually in real nice shape to be a 5.5.
Yeah.
A little bit of shadow in right there, but
yeah, absolutely.
But guillotine cover. There's but to me, a comic book is made to be read. And this is actually comic number 35. It's about 3 months before World War II started. Before they bombed Pearl Harbor was this book made, or this guy would have a swastika on his head.
Yeah, exactly.
So because
10 cents,
10 whole cents, and now it's $1,300. But if you'll look back at comics, they show you the war. I mean, they were huge into it. Even Walt Disney Comics and Stories. There's several of them that have Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse or somebody holding buy war bonds things. Or it was in everything. I don't know if America would pull together like it did back then. You know what I mean? I mean, we had an
'cause
enemy.
you even had the movies. I mean, you even had the movies in the old movies. You had occasionally Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse would appear, buy war bonds or something of that nature. I
It
mean,
was a big thing. A big thing. I just don't know if I don't know what would happen. You know, if something like that happened today.
Yeah.
It's I don't ever want it to.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Things do happen. Things do happen.
But so, in terms of your comics, I mean, do you still see like the traditional, the Superman, Spider-Man? What are your see are the best sellers? Batman. I mean,
right.
Batman, is it DC versus
It's
Stan
a
Lee
total different. It's a total different world. From Marvel to DC is totally different. Marvel did when they come out and they was creating their characters like Spider-Man. They gave him a personality.
Right.
They gave him home. He had his grandmother. He lived Aunt May.
Yeah, Aunt May.
Lived with his Aunt May. His dad or
Uncle
his
Ben,
uncle that got killed.
Yeah.
There's just so many. They gave him a personality. DC doesn't do that as well. So it's a different writing style. They just didn't get into that. Batman is somewhat, but the two favorites always are Batman and Spider-Man. You get one of each, Marvel and DC, but those are by far the heaviest hitters. I mean, everybody knows who Spider-Man and Batman is.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're 3 or 4 year old but but like I say, these guides, there's all kind of guides, and it's cool how nowadays. I was thinking about this the other day. There's an Overstreet price guide that comes out. This year is the 54th. And, I bought the second print.
Wow.
I bought I didn't buy number 1. I bought number 2 in 1971 price guide. But he's been around doing this for 50-something years. When he started out, there was no computers. He had to go to all these individual places. I don't even know how he done it. Go to the individual places, find out how many comics were made in a run and things like that, and who drew them and stuff. I mean, it's amazing. Nowadays, it'd be a whole lot easier. But I used to know Bob Overstreet or met him a few times, and he worked his butt off for 4 or 5 years before that guide ever even come out, because he was trying to learn because there wasn't, like I say, wasn't computer bases and stuff. Right. A lot of these small companies had went out of business, and there was no records of how many they sold, who drew it, how many issues they didn't know. They had to learn. But I take my hat off to him. That was had to be a heck of a job to try to find all that stuff out. I just couldn't imagine, because there's many millions of comic books as there is made. And he goes through and tells you what number is so and so's first appearance, or somebody dies in this issue or something like that. It's just he did a lot.
And let me ask this, because I was thinking about this the other day. What's it called? You got the comic books, and then you got what they call the graphic novels. Is that what those are called? So how do those compare in terms of?
Well, graphic novels are usually reprints.
Okay.
And what they'll do, they'll take 4 or 5 books and they'll put them into one.
Okay.
And sometimes there'll be a 2 or 3 parter. They'll have to do 2 or 3 volumes of it. But all it is, like I say, is basically 4 or 5 comics put together.
Okay.
Now there are some that just write them in that form. But
gotcha.
Format, anticipating that it's going to take, to tell their story, it's going to take 100 pages. So they'll do 3 graphic novels versus 10 comic books or something.
Right.
So, but in comic books, if you look at the box office in the last 25 years and think of all the movies that have come out of comic book related, it's unreal. There's a lot of things that people don't even know started in comic books. They don't. And there's so many still great stories to be told that they haven't done yet.
Right.
That they may not ever get to all of them, but I mean, there's some great stories. We went to see a new Thunderbolt movie the other day. Pretty good movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. It's a pretty good movie. Pretty good movie.
Well, that's good. So what do you expect, like when your customers come in, to talk about customer experience? What do you want them to experience? I mean, we touched on that before, like versus eBay. Here they can come in, they can touch, feel, see the product. But what else do you hope they experience?
Well, I hope they enjoy being in here, because it's what it's all about. It's a big kid store is what I call it. But now we got a lot of kids coming here 6, 7 years old buying Pokemon. But it's we have some customers. We have one customer that comes from West Virginia once a month and comes in here and spends about 5 hours once a month going through every comic book we have, and he'll buy $300 or $400 worth, and most of them, the highest price will be like $10. He'll buy because he's finishing his runs, you know.
Okay.
He comes from West Virginia because he says he can't find it there anywhere there.
Oh wow.
So I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But
Wow.
they come from all over to buy, and we buy from them, and it's pretty cool. We do shows. Like I say, in 2 weeks we'll be in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great show. I mean, we do a show here ourselves always in the second weekend of November. That's I wouldn't want to do. People try to get me to do more shows, but I put too much work. Or me and my wife put too much work into it, and too much worrying and stuff to do. It's just too much. But we do one show, and we do the best we can with it.
Yeah.
And that's all we got.
Yeah. What about some of the challenges with owning a storefront like this? What have been some of the challenges you guys have dealt with?
Well, COVID was tough because I mean, you had rent to pay, you had light bills, water bills, phone bills, all these other bills still come through and had to be paid. Had a great landlord. She worked with us during COVID. She said, you can't be open, you can't sell. I thought that was awful nice of her.
Yeah.
She's a stand-up lady. We've been here 7 years. It was 7 years in February. So we went through COVID, and we went through we started out, we had to learn to adapt. You have to learn to adapt. If something's not selling and you try it for a couple of weeks, then you need to change plans.
Yeah.
You know, I heard an old guy tell me one time, he said, the quickest to adapt and to change to succeed will always be the richest. And that makes a world of sense if you think about it, because if you're selling something and it's not selling, then you change your market plan. You go to a different direction.
Gotcha.
But if I've always, I mean, this is sound kind of crazy, but I mean, even when I was in high school, I was doing comic book shows, going to them and participating and setting up at them and stuff. And guys would come over to my house and they would say, "You mean you leave all these comic books out of your room when your girlfriend comes over?" I said, "Well, yeah, that's who I am. I'm not going to try to change her to suit me, so she don't need to try to suit me to suit her."
Good point.
So
be yourself.
Be yourself, and you ain't never got to back up.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. But if you'd ask the teachers when I was a kid, what would I be doing? This is probably what they would say. Would be selling comic books, and records, and stuff. But Lord, when we grew up, you could go to a concert for $10, and you could buy a concert T-shirt for $20. I mean, wear it to school the next day. And that's what the cool kids did anyway.
Right.
But it's times have changed. We're getting, computers have spoiled us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The simple pleasures of reading a good book, or maybe doing nothing but sitting down, and reading it to a kid or something, and showing them. That's what we have like 150 boxes of dollar comics back there, and the kids come in, they'll say it's their first comic, and I always give them the first one for free.
Right.
And to me, that's just I don't know. You give the first one for free, maybe they'll like it. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know. This market is strong because there's anytime you see kids get involved with it, they're the future of what's coming. But hopefully some of this stuff will rub off on them and they'll enjoy what they're doing.
Right. So in terms of, you mentioned your landlord being really cool, super cool, gracious during COVID. So how has the community of Gallatin, this area and beyond, in terms of supported you guys? And then also, how do you guys give back into the community?
Well, Gallatin's been great. I mean, it has been, I would never believed it would be this good to us. They have been fantastic to us. We put on a comic book show every year, and that's kind of our way of giving back. We don't make a dime off of it. This will be our 7th show. We've never made a dime off of it.
That's the Comic Con?
Yeah, it's Comic Con.
Okay, down.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
We got the Chips guys coming, and Mama from Mama's family, and we got 2 or 3 surprises we're still holding out. We hadn't announced yet.
So you got Vicki Lawrence coming.
Vicki Lawrence is coming. She's going to be dressed up as Mama.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, she's a hoot. And Eric Estrada, the women still love Eric Estrada. I mean, And he's a great guy. He called me one day. It was so funny. I called this agent and I said, hey, can you give me the chips people? And he said, well, let me see. Or she said, let me see. She called him. 5 minutes later, Eric Estrada's calling me. I'm like,
gosh,
you could tell it was him right away. Hey, Chris, it's Eric Estrada. I'm like, this is cool. And I've got to meet so many cool people. I mean,
well, last year you guys had, I saw, because I walked by Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler, Ralph, and the guy that played Ralph Mouth and Potsy. We had Mickey Dolan, the Last Monkey.
Sheesh.
We had Jimmy, had the cast from Good Times, Jimmy Walker and his little brother and sister.
Oh my gosh.
We had a heck of a lineup last year, and I don't think we'll ever beat that. I told them then, all the helpers, everybody that worked with us, we'll never get this kind of lineup again. We better soak it up.
Yeah.
Because, and we were out there, and it was Sunday, lights went out for about 2 hours, right in the middle of the show. You know, and right in the photo booth, we had people lined up, about 150 people lined up to get their photos made with these celebrities, and no current. Well, thank God. I don't know who done it. I wish I could find him. I'd buy him a steak dinner. But he went and got a generator. They support us. The people in Gallatin support it going. The mayor's office has been so supportive. Sumner County Tourism have been great. They stand behind us. They help us. They do everything we, help. They'll call us. Hey, is there anything you need help with? And we filled up last year. They said we filled up every hotel in Sumner County. Even there was 2 or 3 hotels in Nashville saying they were the Gallatin Comic-Con exclusive hotel. We hadn't even talked to them, but I didn't care. I mean, it don't matter to me. I mean, at least they were nice hotels.
Right.
I wouldn't want if it was, some bad hotel. I wouldn't want them to be saying they were, no. But anyway, it turned out fine. But the lights went out and everybody was worried about me. I was like, I'm fine. There's nothing we can do. We can't control it. It'll come back on. And when it comes back on, I said, we'll do with what we got. Yeah. And that's what we done. Some people still shopping. It was in the Q&A room. We had Mickey Dolan. When he sat down in his chair, the lights went out. I was like, this is crazy. Because you don't know if it's going to be out for a minute or two or all day. We didn't know. But we made it work. And then I walked up. It was time for the Happy Days thing. And I walked up to Henry. And of course, he knows we have no lights. That's okay, Henry. He said, I said, it's time for Q&A. He said, what we got? I said, you got about 350 people. How big's the room? I told him precisely how big it was. I said, you're going to walk in the door, go straight up the steps. There's a riser there. And I said, we'll just have to do the best we can do. He said, I got it. And, buddy, when he walked in that room and he stepped up on that podium, he took over. And I've never seen anything like it. The guy that I hired out of St. Louis, he does Q&As. He said, I had 3 pages of Q&A stuff. He said, but I never got to ask any of them because Henry took over. Because he had to leave about 45 minutes early. Most people didn't know this to catch his flight. Yeah. So that way, with him taking over, he controlled the time that they were there. He's that smart. He's smart as a tack.
Oh, and he's funny too.
Yeah, he's a good person. There was on some of the things he wasn't what I thought he would be. On some of the other things, he was so much more than I thought he would be. That may sound stupid, but it was so much more. He was, that he definitely took control of that Q&A, and people loved it so much more because of that. But somebody asked me here a while back, said, I was there at the show when the lights went out, and said, you walk around like you didn't have a care in the world. I said, well, jumping up and down and crying wasn't going to do any good. I said, we just have to ride it out till the lights come back on.
That's right.
So it didn't shake me. I thought, well, we'll make it. We got this. Whatever we got to do.
The lights going out, you can't control.
They ain't nothing you control. That's what I said. That's what I told somebody. I said, we've even got plans if a terrorist attacks, but we don't have plans if the lights go out. I don't mean it as a joke, but I'm being serious. We had all these plans. We had police officers on duty and stuff.
Yeah. But
it's been Don Most, the guy that played Ralph Mouth, was the nicest guy I've met so far in the business. Right. So personal. Picked him and his wife up. God, they were so nice. He said, Chris, how long is it before you go back to the airport? I said, about 3 hours. And he said, you care to drive us around? Let us see the place. And he was just like talking to you. Just like, he's done all this stuff, I mean, now he's a Broadway singer and stuff. Oh, wow. But the nicest guy, nicest down-to-earth guy you've ever met in your life. Just so appreciative of everything. so kind.
Mm-hmm.
My mother has Parkinson's, and his wife has Parkinson's, and she's doing some experimental stuff, all natural experimental stuff. And I was hoping, my mother has Parkinson's, and I was hoping that they would get to talk, but my mother wasn't able to make it this year. I hate that because I know she wanted to be there. But
so when's the next? So the Comic Cons are a big hit.
November 8th and 9th.
November
they're
8th
big
and 9th
hits.
of 2025.
It'll be out here at the Civic Center.
All right.
And we do. I tell you, it's $20 to get in, or $25 for both days.
Jeez.
You ain't gonna beat that.
No.
Don't have to pay anything for parking. If we had this in Nashville, you'd have to pay $35 to park and probably $70 to get in.
At
You know what I'm saying?
least.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we do it, and booths, dealers can get a booth for a 2-day show for $175. That's nowhere. Nowhere can you do that.
Oh my gosh.
We done it all to where people can afford it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People that if they've got 2 or 3 and the kids 12 and under free, you know. I don't want anybody to say, well, I wanted to come, but I couldn't afford it, or I wanted you. Now you may get in there and their autograph may be higher than what you want to pay. That's totally up to you.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to make it where it's as cheap as you can get in.
Sure.
And I'm trying to make it where dealers can make money. And we pick every dealer that's at that show, we hand pick them. We've had places like T-Mobile and things like that. I had him contact me this year, like Gutter Guard or something. I said, no, you're not anything what we want. I said, we want comic book related dealers.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's understandable.
Yes. But now a lot of places will jump on top because he said, I'll pay you 3 times what you charge. I said, I appreciate it. That's flattering, but you're not comic related. He said, you're really going? I said, yes, sir. I said, because there's not a dealer in that room that we haven't handpicked, and I know every one of them by name.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them have been with us 5 years or more.
Wow.
Because they just keep coming back. Because they know it may not now. They know we're going to do everything we can. I mean, we'll have 4 or 5 billboards up in Westmoreland to Mount Juliet, to on 65, to on 40, to on 24. We'll have 5 billboards going. We spend about $30,000 on advertising. We don't take it lightly.
Right.
And I've had other cities contact me, would I do a show in their city? And I'm like, no, because I take too much out of it. I take too much pride in it.
Yeah.
I couldn't just halfway do it. That's kind of a curse I've got. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But I love. I wanted to do a show, and I wanted to do it what I thought was right by making it cheap for the people to get in. Mm-hmm. That place out there is perfect. Had not pay to park. It's got a light coming in and out. You don't have traffic jams. They're fantastic out there. They help us any way they can. It's just a cool setup, and we get the mayor of the county, mayor of the city. And there's other stars. There's country stars that come there. I believe it. Oh, it is. The year we done Leave It to Beaver, there was 5 or 6 big name country stars that come in.
Wow.
They called us and they come through another door because they won't be bothered. But we've had a great luck with it, and we've been. Like, I got a call the other day from somebody that wants to come to our show, and they're out in California, and they told me, they say, hey, we heard you do a good job putting on the show. Y'all do a good job. And what I do is, like, when we invite them to come, we go pick them up. We take them out to eat. We don't send somebody else off to do it. They're like, I look at it like they're coming to our house to visit us.
Absolutely, yeah. And
they realize that, and they trust me. And we do what we say.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I'll never forget, that was so cool. A guy named Steve, he is the agent of the Dukes Hazzard. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to get all 3 of them. But he told me when we got to the airport, his name was Steve, when we got ready to leave, we got out and shook hands. He said, Chris, the biggest compliment I can give you, you've done everything you said you'd do.
Yeah.
And I said, we try. He said, no. He said, if you ever need a reference, you've got one. So
that's great.
Yeah. And we've been very fortunate. Like I say, it's a lot of work goes into this. People can't imagine. Mm-hmm. We got a guy out of St. Louis that comes in and does the Q&A. We have another guy that goes around and does all the filming. You don't just, I've done a lot of shows, thousands of shows in my lifetime. You can tell when one's had a lot of work done to it, or you can tell where they just rented a hotel room.
Yeah.
And threw the stuff out there. you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, small details is what counts.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And, you know, we do our best. If we make a mistake, we learn from it.
So November, people, if they're listening, if they want to
Yep.
make it,
Oh, yeah.
Gallatin, November 8th and 9th.
Yes, it's going to be huge. And we have got, I can't say who it is. I'm not going to say who it is because it might not happen. Now, luckily, everybody that we've ever went after, we've got.
Yeah.
Now, this one I don't know about. To be honest with you, this one is.
Yeah, but if you got Mama coming in.
Well, I got Mama coming in, and she's going to be great.
So,
And Chips guys, and we got the boys of Shaggy and Scooby coming in. We've got, one of my favorite movies is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Right, okay.
Well, yes. The little girl that played Scout, now she's not a little girl now, she's an older lady, she actually called us and asked us, she said, I hear y'all have a great show. And it's, it's from old TV shows and old movies and stuff. I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, well, I only do one show a year. I'd like to do your show. I said, I'd like to have you.
Wow.
And she's such a sweet lady. I can't wait to meet her because I love that show.
Mm-hmm.
But she, I mean, I love that show. And I don't know if you know this or not, but that was the first appearance of Robert Duvall in a movie. His first movie role. He was Boo.
Okay.
He was Boo.
Wow.
And they're the only two left alive from the show.
Yeah, I just saw Robert Duvall turn 94.
Yeah. I asked her, I said, what's the chance you think we can get him? She said, none. I said, well, I'd love to sit down and talk to Robert Duvall.
My mother-in-law just turned 94. I looked at my wife and said, hey, do you know your mom and Robert Duvall share similar birthday month or something like that? They just turned 94.
That's somebody I would love to sit down and talk to. You know he's got some great stories.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know he does because, I mean, good Lord. I mean, he was in everything from The Godfather to Lonesome Dove to Open Range. I mean, it's hard to Secondhand Lines, one of the best movies. I love that movie.
That one and Gods and Generals where he plays Robert E. Lee.
Yes.
I mean, I think he's masterful at his craft.
He is very much so. And they say he's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he ain't doing comic book shows.
No.
But it's funny this year. It's I don't know what's happened, but this year I'm seeing more famous people like Mel Gibson and Danny Glover are going around and they're doing shows. I mean, they're charging like $300 a piece on autographs, but they're going around and doing shows where somebody like him would never have done shows before.
Right.
You know, I don't know if. I'm sure they don't need money. I wouldn't think. I mean, it's like Priscilla Presley. She's doing shows. She started last year doing shows, and I had talked about getting her here, but it just didn't work out.
Right.
But she started doing shows, and she's done several shows lately, and that was one of the reasons we didn't get her because she's done a lot of shows in the 2 hour of us. But I mean, she don't need the money. She's got to be doing it for therapy or something. I don't know why she's doing it, but more power to her. If it's what makes her happy, so be it. But I never thought I'd see Priscilla Presley signing autographs at shows. Wow. I talked to her agent, and I said, why is she just not starting? I said, well, she wrote a book, about 15 years ago. She wrote a book. And the woman he said she had a bad experience at a signing. I don't know what it was, but she had a bad experience at the signing. So she didn't sign anymore. But now she's come back and she's got this guy that goes with her and he like protects her or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. He's like her bodyguard. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't really know. Actually, I don't know what happened, but she didn't do them for like 15 years.
Wow.
She just started.
Wow.
But that's somebody I never thought I'd see in the show. But Weird Al Yankovic, he's never done shows. He's starting to do shows.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know if people, I don't, how can I put this in a polite way? In God We Trust is hard to trace, and a lot of them don't take nothing but cash.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
Gotcha.
I mean,
gotcha.
that just is what it is.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely.
It is what it is.
Absolutely.
And I don't think they need money so much on most of them. I think they just something they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Something they want to do, meet their fans and stuff.
Yeah.
Barbara Eden called us last year
and
wanted to come, and I'd love to have her. She's in her 90s too, and she looks great. I'd love to have had her, but I told her, I said, if we brought you in, because she was going to be like $100 autograph, if we brought her in with all the other guests we had, they just sucked all the money up out of the room, and the dealers would have made nothing. And that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
You got to learn that balance, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And most promoters have no idea what I'm even talking about because they've never been a dealer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my hidden thing is I've been a dealer, so I know what it's like to be on the other side of the table.
Gotcha.
And I know what gets on my nerves,
Yeah.
and I know what I don't want, what I don't like.
Right.
I done a show one time up in Clarksville, Tennessee. This guy done, and he crammed all the tables so close you had to crawl out from under your table. Well, I've got 2 rods in my back. The first time I crawled out, I just went to the truck with the van, got my 2-wheeler, and I started rolling out there. I'd already paid him for the tables, and I thought, what's he going to do? Eat me? You know, I'm not crawling on this table. I can't. My back will not let me. You know, I've got rods in my back. I'm not made for crawling anymore.
No.
But I've watched and I've learned from a lot of people's
Sure.
experiences from doing shows and seeing how they do it and what was right and what was wrong.
So Chris, for someone who wants to get into this type of industry, whether it's comic books, records, both, Pokemon cards or whatever, what advice would you give to someone who maybe they're young, aspiring, they get, hey, I think I would enjoy this, make something fun into my life's work? What would you say to them?
Well, let it be something you enjoy. Because like old saying goes, you know, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. Let it be something you enjoy. Me, it's the hunt. I love the hunt. I love the negotiation part of it. I love going to people's houses or them coming in and bringing stuff. I mean, I went to 3 places this weekend and looked at comic book collections.
Wow.
I go look. I don't care where it's at. I don't care if they said, I went to Missouri one time and bought a comic book collection. If it's worth it, I'll drive wherever it's at. But you've got to have love for what you do.
Right.
You've got to, you can't assume that somebody else is going to do it for you. It's like if this woman asked me last year, why did I do this? Why did I put so much work in a comic book show?
Yeah.
She said, because obviously y'all have worked y'all's butts off doing this.
Yeah.
Why do you do it? I said, because we love it.
Yeah.
I said, and if we don't do it, who's going to do it?
Great point.
You know, and it's so cool to see these young kids come here and say, hey, I met Henry Winkler at your show last year. That was fantastic. I love that. They don't have, you know, I'm not looking for a thank you. That's my thank you. Them telling me that they enjoyed seeing or enjoyed coming. You know,
Gotcha.
but we try every way in the world to get it to where it's as cheap as they can get in and as good a guest as we can get. But if anybody going to get into this business, love it, because you got to.
Gotcha.
You just, because there'll be nights I sit up to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning pricing stuff. If I buy a collection, I'll sit up to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning that night pricing, so I'll have it in here the next day. And Facebook is a fantastic thing because you can you target your audience. You put pictures. We put pictures of what we have bought on, and people come in and buy it. It works great. I wish we'd had that back when I had my other stores, because it's a whole lot cheaper than buying billboards.
Yeah. Free advertising, social media, free advertising.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. It's changed the world too. Yeah. But I'm not looking to change the world. I'm just looking to have some fun.
There you go.
And then people to have fun, good, clean fun.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, I tell people, this may sound kind of corny, but I tell people, don't do it if you wouldn't do it for your mama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's so true.
Yeah,
though.
that's true. That is true. That is true.
That is true.
That's true.
You know, if you're ashamed of what you're doing, don't do it. If you don't like what you're doing, fix it.
Yeah.
I turned 18 in a sawmill up in Lafayette. Worked there for 5 years. The best experience I ever had, because it taught me that wasn't what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be in a factory.
Right.
I mean, that's fine if that's what you want to be. And if you're content with that, God bless you.
Yeah.
We need them.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I remember being in grade school and being behind the trash guys, and it was spitting snow and it was cold as can be. My dad was taking me to school, and I said, Lord, I would hate to be them. And he said, well, they're just as important as I am.
Yeah.
He said, because if they're not here, nobody can pick the trash up. We all need each other.
That's right. That's right.
And that struck home.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, Chris, where can people find you? Yes.
Well,
besides here in the Gallatin Square.
Well, I mean, we're on Facebook. We've got a website. We've got several websites. We've got our Towne Square page, our personal page, and we've got our Gallatin Comic Con page, and we also have a Dot Records page.
Okay.
So we got a lot. If they're looking for me, they can find me. I had a guy come here one day and said, "I've been looking for you for a year." I said, "Well, I ain't hard to find," but he was just no friend of mine.
Yeah.
He's just no friend of mine. But but I really feel like what's made this succeed so much is that we love it.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my wife both love it.
Yeah.
Her parents had her grandparents started it, a 5 and dime store on the square in the field when I was a kid, and I would go in there and buy my comic books. I'd get money for mowing my grandmother's yard, and it was so funny. Granny always knew, and she'd pay me money to mow her yard, and I'd go. She said, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "I guess I'll go up there, Carl Robinson's 5 and dime, and buy me a model car and some comic books." She said, "You go up there and say Pearl Robinson girl," and she was right. Now I'm married to her. We've been married for a while, but Granny knew. It was just funny. It was just funny.
Man.
But man, I've been doing this so long that I really don't know what else I'd do if I quit this.
Yeah.
I've been very blessed in so many ways. But now it's not come easy.
Right.
If you open a business and you think it's going to be easy, you're in for a rude awakening.
No.
Because I'll tell you, you don't get holiday pay, you don't get vacation, you don't get insurance, you don't get nothing. If you ain't open, I put stuff, every inch of this building, I put something in it where they can buy it because I'm paying rent on every bit of it. Now, we're closed on Monday. This whole square is closed on Monday. It's like a ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to stay open. We opened before, but it just don't work. People take off. They're open on Saturday, they take off. And the Gallatin has been great about, they have festivals up here on the square.
Right, yeah.
And it'll be 35 to 40,000 people. And we'll get 2,000 or 3,000 people come through here that didn't know we were here.
Wow. And
it always does that. We'll always, from one of these festivals, we'll buy a big collection or we'll pick up a couple of big buyers. And that is, that's just, that makes it all worthwhile. When people walk by and this and didn't know they was here, I love the biggest flattery that anybody can pay us is the biggest compliment anybody can pay us. Like if you have for example, if you had family or friends come in from out of town and you brought them up here because you want to show them this place.
Gotcha.
To me, that is the biggest compliment somebody can pay you. Because if they think enough of it, that they want to bring their family or friends or whoever up here to see it, you got to be doing something right. And we never cheat. And I'll tell you, if you have never been here, there's a ton of stuff here. And we bought it all off individuals and dealers at shows and stuff. But people bring stuff in every day. I bought those toys and a stack of comic books and a stack of records today. And it's, it's just Tuesday. But my job though is to hurry up and get it put out, because you never know what's coming next. I bought 170 boxes of comics the other day. And they were all upstairs over top of a bonus room out in Spring Hill. Had toting all them boxes down. I showed my age, but thank God he had 2 young sons that were like 15 or 16. I give them. They loaded me up. I give them like $100 a piece. That's the best $100 I spent in a long time because my back wouldn't let me do it. But if you get a name that you're not fair with your prices, or if you're not paying people much. It doesn't work. Yeah. I hear it every day. I had a guy come in here one day, and this is no exaggeration. I swear, true story. He come in one day and he brought me an old box of comics, put none of them in a bag or board. They were all from the 40s. He had found them somewhere. I don't even know where he'd found them. And I give him $2,500. I thought I was going to pick them up off the floor. He had a posted note where he'd been to another shop and they offered him $25. Seriously, this is a true story. So I called after he left. I called that shop and I said, "Man, what are you doing?" I said, "You're gonna give us all a bad name." And the guy that answered the phone, he said, "Well, I wasn't here." He said, "I've gone to lunch. Somebody told me somebody come in with old comics," and I told him what all was in there, and he was like, "Oh my God!" I said, "Yeah." And they offered him $25. But that's just Yeah. So those kind of things come back to bite you. Yeah. But
so integrity is important.
It is.
Integrity
is very important. It's very important. And now records are 50 years old. I tell them, if they buy one, it's got a problem with it, bring it back. We'll swap it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I look at them best I can. Don't play every one of them. I don't have that much time because we sell probably 300 to 400 to 500 records a week.
Yeah.
And how I can tell that is how many sleeves I'm buying every
Gotcha.
week
Gotcha.
going through. But it's every month. It's funny. We keep up with it, and it'll be this side will be 49, this side will be 51, or vice versa. They're pretty much the same.
Gotcha.
And but you may sell a $100 comic and then $10 records. You know what I'm saying? It's. I mean, a guy come in today and bought a $250 comic book. He bought first person Deadpool. just walking off the street. And can I see that? And I said, sure.
Yeah.
I told him, you know what that is? He said, oh yeah. And he just pulled out the card. I mean, I'm cool with it.
Good deal.
But you know, I hope these kids. Here's kind of a cool story. I've got a guy that comes in here and he's like 6'3", 6'4", bald headed cop out of Nashville, but he brings his son in.
Okay.
Well, when he was a kid, he was buying Pokemon at my store, and now I've got the second generation coming. So it's kind of cool. You know, I never thought about that. And these kids, like we'll do a show, and these kids will come up, you know, and they were 10 when they were buying Pokemon and stuff off of me,
Gotcha.
Franklin or Murfreesboro or wherever. Well, now they're 35. I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
You know, they remember me because I've changed quite a bit, but it's still me. You know,
Gotcha.
And that's kind of cool. That you know, that they remember good times being at the shop. You know, playing Pokemon or trading cards or buying something or. Like I've always said, and I know it's corny as crap, but you can't put a price on good memories.
Yeah, that's right. That's
you
right.
know, and that's what I hope they have when they come here and when they come to our shows. You know, that's what we hope for. Hope they have good memories.
Yes, absolutely.
And tell people about it and come, because word of mouth best advertising in the world. It'll make you or break you in a heartbeat.
Right.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. But yeah, if you could pick me up at 14 and set me in here, this is where I would be. If you asked me what I want to do for a living when I was a kid, this is what I'd have told you.
Yeah, awesome.
So I get to live out my dream, you know.
That's great, Chris.
And
it's
you know, and I'm not looking to make a ton of money, just enough to get by.
There you go.
Rest, you know, all you need is just enough to get by. Everything else is bragging.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's true. That's a great point. That's a great point.
I heard no idea.
Great point.
But we have a great customer base. These people, it was so funny. The other day, my birthday, and I can't tell you how many of them called me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It was so cool. I mean, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. I mean, it was pretty neat.
Good deal. Good deal.
But again, like I say, we try to be fair with everybody. They buy something off of it and they bring it back in to trade it in because they've read it or something. You know, we don't rip them off.
Yeah.
If they buy a record that's got a scratch in it, no problem.
Yeah.
You know, we looked at it and thought it would be fine. You know, we can't clean every record. We got too many. But you know, and it's hard to keep up with everything too, because we do new comics, and right now that's a big mess going on with Diamond, which has been around for 30 years, selling, you know, distributing comics. They're going bankrupt, so there's a lot of right now there's a lot of chaos, and then as far as the new comic books, we're not sure where we're going to get all of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 companies, and really don't know what's going to happen yet.
Yeah.
But that's just stuff you have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Supply and demand is one of the biggest things.
That's always the name of the game in business.
It
Supply and demand.
Right now, see, I mean, every kid in the world wants Pokemon, and you can't get them. They're sold out.
Wow.
They made a new set, and they didn't make enough of it. And right now, the packs are going for like $15 a pack. You know,
wow.
When you've got something selling like that, I don't understand why they don't print as much of them. You know what I'm saying? Overprint. Who cares? It's going to sit around. It's going to sell. It ain't like it.
Maybe it comes back to that supply and demand. Maybe we get more demand, less supply, more money.
I think that may be part of it, but they don't get any of the secondary money.
Oh, that's true.
You know, so they don't. You know, they're getting the regular price out of the boxes. But
gotcha.
It's I went to eBay last night and had to buy something at some of the store because I'm tired of telling people no, we don't have it. Yeah,
right.
Because they hear that too many times, they quit coming.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chris, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Discovering
Appreciate
615.
it.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate your
Very-
story.
Appreciate
And
it.
thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Have a great day, and God bless. We'll catch you later.
Yes.